2024. Hello everybody, welcome. I'm going to be your host tonight. I'm Dana. I hope you're doing well. Consider giving us a few clicks and stuff like that. You can call into these live shows. We're in Canada at 709-589-4406. I'm going to do a news cycle. This set of stories was from August the 4th. July, August. Stories we didn't get to do yet, so we're going to start on that. Ring-a-ding-ding. The Globe and Mail, of course, demonized me. Nuclear industry deserves praise for the way it searches for waste disposal site. When I read that headline, I blew up laughing. Like in Canada, they got $26 billion for 24 years. So 24 years ago, they had $26 billion. Now, and they got that money because every day there's money collected from the ratepayers. Every bill cycle, 12 times a year. And that money goes into money for nuclear waste. So apparently, in 24 years ago, they stopped collecting money. But they didn't, right? They're still collecting the money. And so it's been $26 billion. Now, they didn't grow any interest on the $26 billion on top of that. And they've spent 18 years, hardcore, they claimed, looking for a repository. And it's in the same spot for the whole time. And they go around the communities throwing millions of dollars at the community. Here's a couple $1 million. Well, you need a fire truck. Well, here, get 5. And they just throw money around. Clearly, they're growing interest. But the official number is still $26 billion. So, we're paying every year here in Canada towards the nuclear waste anyway. So how come it hasn't gotten bigger? And how come they're not growing interest on it? And there's a lot of money, right? So where's all that money going to? Devious people, to say the least. So the Globe and Mail, of course, was promoting uranium stocks viciously for the last 13 years. And they artificially inflate the stocks, get investors, promote the uranium stocks to the investors. And when they buy into it, then they sell their stocks and take the investors' money. They're really disgusting what they're doing. Nuclear industry deserves praise for everything. The way it sneezes, the way it trips over the steps, the way they all mimic Homer Simpson, the way it searched for waste disposal site. It's hard to comprehend that they still haven't got one. When you got $26 billion, and the problem is, the only spots you try to put it is where nobody wanted it. People's back gardens. Prime farmland, of course. Always in prime farmland. Of course, if that was uranium pellets, you would die right away. They could be they're uranium pellets, let's say they are, but they've never gone through a chain reaction. Once they go through a chain reaction, because we're talking about nuclear waste, that's a completely inappropriate picture, right? Because you can't do that with nuclear waste. But we're talking about the Globe and Mail, the evil of evil, the most popular media in Canada, and there's no limits to their wickedness. Ignace's municipal government previously said a repository could advance the long-term well-being of the community to economic growth, environmental sustainability. What are you talking about? Environmental sustainability. They're going to put it in the middle of prime farmland. Everything shipped there is vented on the way there. when you get there, they're going to repackage it, which means everything is vented for whatever the lifespan of this nightmare is going to be. And there's around 7,000 lakes in the local area. 7,000. Beautiful place. It's beautiful. Nuclear's like, well, I can't have that. You got to kill that. Look what they've done to all the tropical islands. The first thing they done was get rid of all the beautiful paradises, the tropical islands. And then the only time ones you see now is from Disney and Hollywood. There's no tropical paradises. They destroyed it with radiation. The French Polynesian Islands, Christmas Island, Maralinga, Montebello, Australia, the Marshall Islands. What they've done to these places is just... it's the most heinous crime conceivable. Still 1 million square kilometers of the Marshall Islands is still too radioactive to be habitable. You know, the nursery of the Pacific, right? The government decided against holding a referendum because it said few residents wanted one here in Canada. And a referendum also cannot determine whether someone is informed. Well, clearly without a referendum, no one can prove they even exist. At least with a referendum, you can prove they exist. The municipalities instead hired a consultant with Chelsea Incorporation, which we called it many, many times, by the way. Terrible people. The government decided against holding a referendum. It should be a referendum for all of Canada where you put the nuclear waste, not for the communities that you're throwing millions of dollars at for free. Here, have a couple more million. Oh, you wasted all that. Here's another couple million. And a referendum also cannot determine whether someone is informed. I would like to play that backwards. Because it's probably like all humans are scum or something. Which provides a study examining residents' perspective about the project to a willingness ad hoc committee. To a willingness. So this consultant, Chela, whatever the hell this is, which provides a study examining residents' perspectives. So you've done a study getting their perspectives, which took an incredible amount of time, but a referendum was simple vote, and you wouldn't do that. This is the kookiest scam I've ever heard. It's how the hell did we ever get to this stage where we're this complacent that they've done something like this? The government decided against holding a referendum because it said few residents wanted one, but they all wanted to do a willingness ad hoc committee. What the... I mean, there's some serious evil going on right there. You got a couple of little communities know nothing about anything about nuclear, making a decision that impacts the entire country forever. Because they said a few residents wanted one. So did you talk to all of them? Wouldn't it be easier just to have the referendum? What do you mean few residents wanted one? Why wouldn't they want one? So, like there's a huge amount of anti-nuclear going on up there. All kinds of groups started up. There's a huge amount of anti-nuclear. So they're going to win, right? They're very public. They even make it into the media all the time, which means they don't know what they're talking about. We've covered it. Roger Dufault, co-chair of the ad hoc committee, said 640 of an estimated 1,035 eligible residents participated in the community vote conducted online in person also. Of those, 495 voted in favor of proceeding as a host community for the repository, or 77% of the total that actually voted. Well, the other ones were clearly anti-nuclear, right? Hardcore. Only 133 residents, or 20%, voted to drop out of nuclear waste management organization's process. Well, they're throwing millions and millions and millions of dollars at these communities. For the hospital, for the ambulances, for the fire department, for the town council. Like, holy shit, the millions they threw at them guys. For boys and girls clubs, for the schools, just throwing money everywhere, in every direction. And you have a big office downtown. You can go in and they'll show you a model. What they won't show you is stuff that is really important to the equation, that these things are vented all the way there. They're vented and repackaged at the site. And at some point, the stuff you're burying down under the ground no longer has the human intervention, so it's going to melt down. The stuff never stops producing energy. That's the problem with it. It's still splitting atoms. They recommended the council pass this resolution proceed as a host community, which the council promptly did. Here. Let me show you these pictures. It's absurd. You're talking about nuclear waste and you're showing a picture of somebody holding on to nuclear waste, really. It's absurd how disconnected Canada actually is. A community of roughly 1,200 in Northern Ontario formally declared its willingness to host, the new word now for nuclear. And they always say, like, the community has to want us there, or we're just going to go start over again somewhere else. It could take us another 18 years. We don't mind. We got $26 billion, and we're siphoning the shit out of that, and the interest and everything else, and the money that's coming in is all missing. Right? Canada is still paying for the nuclear waste on every bill. Where's that money going to? How come it's still $26 billion 24 years later? And how come there was no interest growing on that money? And how can you spend all that money in interest and not produce a single friggin' hole in the ground? Because this is all about, well, we're going to dig a hole, and we're going to put it all down there and bury it. And you got all this money, all this interest, and all the money still coming in every month. And you got nothing to show for it. You got 18 years of people just living high on the hog at the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. And meanwhile, all that nuclear waste, 5,500 fuel assemblies, is splitting atoms into the environment because you can't contain it. Which means an explosion of heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline problems, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes problems. Because this stuff is still hemorrhaging into the environment. Looks like we're getting whooped tonight, are we? The industry is, I think I only got 125 in my last video. I've never seen anything like that before. They got a hate on for me. Feelings are mutual. Ignace would receive a payment totaling $170 million over 175 years. So less than $1 million a year to poison everybody in these communities. That's not going to cover the cancer from a single person from all the venting they're going to do in the middle of farmland. 15, like, the story is insane. Let me show you how insane this actually is. In the middle of farmland, everything's vented, so all the food is radioactive, and you're going to ship that out to market constantly to get rid of the radiation and poison everybody that eats it for 175 years. Genius, actually, isn't it? Like, if you're evil, they got the rap on evil, I can tell you that much. I'm busted up. My knuckles are all busted up. My little fingers are all busted up. There we go. It's about 1,500 acres. The story is so important that I'm going to show you to bring it all together. So about 1,500 acres farmland, prime farmland. secures 1,500 acres of land. They need 250 acres for the facility. Which is a square kilometer, is it? Yeah, square kilometer. So they got, let me go backwards here for a second. They got 1,500 acres. They only need, so at least 1,250 acres, because 250 acres is equal to a square kilometer. So the rest of it is going to be harvested. They're going to harvest food constantly on it, right? And that's where a huge amount of radiation is going to settle close by, because that square kilometer, which is a packing site, and so below that, deep underground, is the deep geological repository. That's the theory, right? And I can show you all the schematics and everything else, but let's just talk about what's actually happening here. So the trucks are leaving the nuclear plants where all the waste is currently stored. It's going to truck it all the way up, it's 1,000 kilometers or something, through prime farmland the whole time, on both sides of the highway. This is the 400 or something. And everything is vented. So all that food on the highway is getting non-stop radiation for 175 years. When it gets there, they're going to sit in prime 1 square kilometers in the middle of 1,500 acres surrounded by tens of thousands of acres of farmland. And they're going to repackage it. Everything is vented. They're going to take it, repackage everything. Then they're going to seal it. It's going to take 175 years then and put it underground. And so all the farms are going to be producing deadly radioactive food. See, that kind of information, that's why I get the big numbers on my videos. You're killing it today, man. I got 10. That's hard to believe, I know. It's true though. YouTube doesn't lie. Is Japan trying to kill millions of people worldwide each year by growing food in a nuclear wasteland? And this piggybacks off the stories of last night. Why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms? Woo! That's an interesting question, isn't it? Why is every nuclear plant and dump, including Canada, surrounded by farms? Just hang on a second. I get... Let me see what they get done this time. Last night, 20 hours after my show last night, I had 120 views. It's incredible tiny numbers. They've been just brutalizing me for the last month or so. Really hard. Worse than what it's been for the last couple of years. Remember, my last site they took down when I was looking for spiders had 24,800 subscribers. Pretty good, right? Well, I had 24,800 subscribers for 5 years. I never lost one and I never gained one. So they got me crucified. So all day today I got 70 views basically in 20 hours. Because nobody cares about nuclear except for the nuclear industry. That's what they want you to think. And the poll last night was, does the nuclear industry build all nuclear plants in prime farming zones to destroy the health worldwide? And there's only one answer. It's clearly yes. And the remainder will continue to be used as it is today, farmland. If that's not evil, what actually is, I wonder? And we're back to the other story, which is the same, basically. Over 175-year duration, it's estimated to cost $26 billion. Well, during that period, 175 years, they're still going to be charging people for nuclear waste, right? Where's all that money going to go? And $26 billion is what they started out with. How come they haven't grown any interest on it? And how come 18 years they still haven't come up with anything? Not a single thing. How come not a single nuclear industry worldwide has come up with a single solution? Because all the waste is still splitting atoms, and they want that to happen. Because these anthropogenic man-made atoms attack everything with replicating cells. And there's nobody and no species on the planet has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. And just by their own emissions and their lack of getting things done, how can you not? When you got $26 billion, you can get shit done, okay? You don't need to spend a nickel. There's so much interest. It's an absurd amount of interest in $26 billion. You can get shit fucking done, okay? They can go into those communities and pay everybody $1 billion and not even blink. With just the interest it growed that we don't, that is somehow missing it at the kitty. The government has previously said the repository, which is eventually will melt down, and when it doesn't need oxygen to burn, see? And then any water gets in there, then it'll crack the earth open, and you'll never be able to live in Canada for 1 billion years because of this stuff will burn forever. And you can't contain it. Eventually it'll just eat through the earth and be this big burning sun and sticking out of our planet. And to mention the words environmental sustainability is because they know the environment is not sustainable with nuclear. The government, the idiot machine, decided against holding a referendum because it said few residents wanted one. How would they know that without a referendum? Really. And again, right, this destroy the native communities. That's the one thing we see consistently throughout the entire legacy of nuclear is how do we poison? We're going to set up a nuclear plant, but we want to be able to poison the local natives too. How do we do that? Let's get an engineer. Why do you think every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms? And where's all that food going to, I wonder? You're talking hundreds of miles of farmland that you need to worry about. This stuff never stops splitting atoms into the environment. The native community, Wabigoon Lake Ojibway Nation, said during an interview last month, his organization strived to ensure its membership is sufficiently informed to vote this fall, but was unsure whether that could be accomplished. Yeah, but they got all the pro-nuclear flooding that community, throwing money around. Everybody's like, oh, it's like a banana and walking in the sunshine. What's the big whoop? He also emphasized the community would not grant the binding approval of the project this year, because they're dependent upon the native community too. I think personally they're not trying to come up with a solution. Why would you put it in the middle of so much controversy? Why wouldn't you just go 500 miles north in the middle of nowhere where you have the Arctic Shield, which has never moved for 1 billion years? Why do it in the most fragile ecosystem and environment, the most controversial areas, the most beautiful areas, pristine areas? Why would you do it there, you despicable nuclear nut job on this planet? Tensions with First Nations threaten to delay the nuclear waste facility. Well, I think the Nuclear Waste Management Organization delayed this for how many years already? 18 years? It's going to take 40 years or something to build it? 40 years to build it. All that radiation, all those fuel assemblies, the 5.5 million that we currently have, we're still producing massive amounts every day. The 5.5 million fuel assemblies we already have are all splitting atoms all day into the environment on a rate that would terrify anybody with a conscience. There's nothing on the planet that has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. Is that why I got 12, 13 people on my show? Some serious censorship tonight, holy shit. But I think people with a conscience are not going to worry about how many people are looking at the video. They're going to be worried about the topic itself, right? Oh my goodness, I'm busted up. Barely. I was like, I can't do a show. I'm too frigged up. I'm too busted up too. Like, if I don't do a show, then how do I sleep tonight? How do I look in the mirror in the morning when I wake up if I don't come out and try to be a big friggin' wrench in this cog, in this monstrous machine that is consuming humanity and the 8 million species, because that's the only way you can survive. It has to destroy everything in order to survive. And because there's so much of it out there now, never been challenged in its entire legacy appropriately. And there's a Northwatch environmental group opposed to the Revel repository said in a statement that other communities are closer to Revel site than Ignace, which is a situation in a different watershed, and said its municipal council lacked jurisdiction, that the spent nuclear fuel would also be transported through many communities on its way to the site. And what was that disgusting mouthpiece? Let me find it. I got it there. What was that nut job from the Nuclear Waste Management Organization had said? Where do you get a load of this one? He's the spokesperson for, I'll give you his name in a minute. I made sure to keep his narrative in a folder. Here we go. Vince Ponka, Ponka. Man. Oh. It's unbelievable what he done. Hang on. Let's try this again. I thought I had it that time. Vince Ponka, Nuclear Waste Management Organization's Regional Communication Manager, attempts to dispel concerns surrounding Deep Geological Repository project. That's their office up in this little tiny town. So people can come in there and be indoctrinated into the monster machine. In an interview with Dougal Media, Chief Turtle said the Land Defense Alliance had reached out to the Nuclear Waste Management Organization to speak with them about the project, but the Nuclear Waste Management Organization had a scheduling conflict which prevented them from attending a meeting because the natives were having a meeting. He didn't want to go there and get what was coming to him. We had invited the Nuclear Waste Management Organization to come sit with us, but they didn't show up. No, because Vince is a coward, right? The regional communication manager, he's the communication manager, said the organization was aware of the protest. However, they were attending the final days of the willingness process. Instead of having a referendum, they had a willingness. No one has ever been harmed in Canada or around the world by used nuclear fuel. They're going to start off, might as well start off the biggest one, the biggest lie. He also said all the trees were dying from bird flu. According to his wife when she was, never mind, it's personal. So this is four medias, CBS, I'm not going to play the video tonight, the BBC, CNN, ABC Australia, claiming they're in the fuel pool at Fukushima. First off, every fuel pool is hemorrhaging radiation into the environment. It's hemorrhaging it. It's just hemorrhaging. Like on a how many atoms does it take to boil a glass of water? It's more than a Google, right? Which is a number, by the way. So how many atoms does it take to boil water for 1 million homes and businesses every minute? This is an absurd number of anthropogenic man-made atoms. 14 months later, when you take that out and put it in a fuel pool, it's still splitting those atoms. It'll do that for millions of years. That's why it's dangerous. Not that they're going to tell you that. So when Vince, no one has ever been harmed in Canada or anywhere around the world by used fuel, is the most insidious lie conceivable. And he's got lots of them. He's not hard to get along with. He got a lie for everything. Even though used nuclear fuel is classified as dangerous goods along with many other things on the road, there's nothing more dangerous than used fuel. If you took a Dixie cup of it and you put it in a McDonald's and there was 200 people can go in there every 20 minutes, every one of them would die. And you can take their bodies out 20 minutes later, another 200 would die from that single tiny cup. A Dixie cup is like a small, 1/3 of a cup, a special like little cardboard cup with ice cream in it. Would kill everybody, and they'll do that for millions of years. He said it's much safer than a lot of the goods that are already transported on the highways across the Northwest. You can't conflate nuclear waste with anything else on the highway. The benefits of dealing with the uranium is because it's solid, it's very easy to find. Australia last year had lost one of their meters for constructions payload, which was about the tip of my pinky, and it was a gamma emitter. It was CC-137, right? It was a gamma emitter, and they lost it on the highway somewhere in a 900-kilometer stretch. And what they done was drove along the highway at 60 miles per hour with expensive Geiger counters and found it at 60 miles per hour as they were driving along. And they were saying that the average person who drove past that at 60 miles an hour got the same dose as if it was an X-ray at the hospital. By the way, if a parent is pregnant, has 2 X-rays, the child is 50% chance of never graduating school or being classified as very low IQ, very severe mental health problems included. First off, anything you're transpounding on the highways is putting out incredible gamma shines, neutron bombardments, beta rays. So everybody drives past is getting a lot more than an X-ray. It's very easy to collect. You can't collect nuclear waste if you have an accident. Vince Ponca, I mean, they should take his DNA to see if he's actually human to be this evil, to say stuff like this. It's unconscionable to lie to that degree. It's not illegal. If it was illegal, he'd be in jail a long time ago. And put back into it, the Parliament in Canada and the American Congress, the Japanese Diet, it's the equivalent of a Congress or Parliament, don't have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation. If they did, you wouldn't be able to kill you in your hospitals with radiation all day, every day. And put back into a container and be on our way with very little impact on the environment. So that's the crazy statement. So if it's that innocuous or harmless and benign, why do you need a deep geological repository for, Vince? We should do a daylight show tomorrow and call Vince. We'll pretend that we're Coyle Hill or Rod Adams, so the crazies, right? The pro-nuclear nut jobs. Veritasium. So it's such an astounding statement, though, isn't it? So if you have an accident on the highway, It's very solid, so it's easy to find. It's very easy to collect and then put it back in a container and be on our way. So what do you need a deep geological repository for? I'm almost ashamed to be a human sometimes. Just like, my goodness, boy. I'll do that again. So if you have a nuclear accident on the highway, this is what they were talking about. The benefit of a nuclear accident is it's solid, so it's easy to find. It's so easy to collect, and you can just throw it back in the container with a dustbin or something, right? Just get a broom and a little dustbin, put it back in the container, be on your way. If you took Vince Ponca to a nuclear waste site where they're storing nuclear waste, and there was fuel going, which is all done underwater, by the way, and the fuel, because if it takes it out in the air, it'll detonate right away. It's exposed to air. And it'll contaminate that area for a million years. You'll have a chain reaction right there on the road. A nuclear meltdown right on the friggin' highway. I can't imagine that somebody said something like that. Let's say the highway, the radiation doesn't stay behind once you remove it. Unlike like an oil spill or gas spill, says Ponca. So like the radiation doesn't stay behind once you remove it. Oh my God. Well, let's just say that, the radiation fell on the road. You put all the radiation somehow magically back in a container. The road now is like radiation is like magnets in one way, where you can magnify. You take a screwdriver and put it on a magnet, and then later on you can take the screwdriver and stick it down in a bunch of screws, and when you lift it up, all kinds of different screws are sticking to each other because it's magnetized. So radiation is like that, except it's not harmless like a magnet. It's brutally, it attacks everything with replicating cells. If you tip the truck over it and you wasted it, it's not easy to collect because it caught fires immediately. It'll burn at the zirconium cladding burns at 1800 degrees. That ignites the uranium plutonium pellets that are inside the fuel rods, which are coated also with zirconium. And the zirconium is the stuff that you used to use in the 1920s or so in the cameras with the big flash. And you have this little hammer and it breaks, you go click, and it breaks the glass. And then the zirconium inside the flash will ignite, and that'll throw out this great big bright light, and then the photographer takes the picture. And it's so carcinogenic, it's hard to appreciate how carcinogenic it is. But the minute it's exposed to air, it detonates. So he says it's easy to find, easy to collect. You can't collect it because it's atomizing aerosol and ionizing and radiating everything it's touched. Put back in a container and be on our way with very little impact on the environment. So this tells you everything you need to know about this nuclear waste management organization. Is monsters. These are wicked people. Let me show you another way to. I apologize that we're still stuck on this story. There's nothing I can do about it. That's the cards we're dealt with. You can't rush these stories, right? But if you took Vince to a nuclear waste and try to put him in a cast with nuclear waste, he would claw the eyes out of your head trying to get away from you. Because he knows it's not very easy to collect. You can't put it back, that genie back in the bottle. I think that all those communities should protest until he's removed from the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. and that the people who wrote this article should lose their degree from journalism for promoting such a lie. How can they call themselves a human, let alone a journalist? How does that actually work, I wonder? Let's say the highway, the radiation doesn't stay behind once you remove it. Put it back in the container, be on our way. It's so very easy to collect. But gas, oil spill and gas is worse than a nuclear meltdown on the highway. I never even conceived that somebody could be that wicked. Yeah, they've been thrown for 14 years. They've been throwing money in those communities, and then they roll out Vince Panka, who goes to hell and says the benefit of dealing with a uranium truck accident is solid. You can find it, you can pick it up and collect it and put it back in the container, and away you go again. So why would you have a deep geological repository if it had those particular attributes? This is a disgusting industry. Experts are alarmed by barrels of radioactive waste off the coast of Los Angeles. A notorious ocean pollution site off the coast of Los Angeles could be even more deadly than once believed, containing not just toxic chemicals, but low level. They got to put that in there because being a scumbag has a lot of fucking parameters. But low level radioactive waste. There is no low level, there's incredibly high level waste. That's what they're talking about. The low level waste went in your local landfill alongside of your drinking water. The scumbags. The lid was blown off in 2020 when the graveyard of barrels was first discovered, according to the LA Times. The researchers searched through hundreds of pages of old records, finding evidence that the same company responsible for dumping DDT in the area, California Salvage, also dumped radioactive waste. Well, look at here. Whether this was legally sanctioned is less clear. What do you mean legally sanctioned? Destroying the ecosystems now can be sanctioned, can it? Go, oh yeah, no, it's okay, go ahead. We like you guys. Go ahead, kill everything. For 1 million years. Records show that the company received a permit for disposing of the radioactive waste, but in separate documents, the United States Atomic Energy Commission claimed this permit was never activated. So why'd you give it? Because you know they dumped it in the ocean for decades. The researchers say it's more than possible that the radioactive material could have been dumped within 150 miles ashore. Between 1946 and 1970, the map showed more than 56,000 barrels of radioactive waste. This is high-level waste. This is what he put it on the barge, and they had to throw it overboard. They couldn't make it back because it would have been too big of a dose to the crew. They had to get it off the boat when they left the wharf. These people are insane. And it still shocks me, though, right? After all these years, this stuff still shocks me. There's not a single story that doesn't shock me when it comes to nuclear, that they're so evil. And because they get away with it, then they become more brazen, more empowered to be more criminal. The world only understood the issue with all of that. Why do they gotta be so evil? Why can't they just come up with a decent solution? You can put 2,000 universities together. and come up with solutions. No. And nuclear is the most resource intensive industry in human history. All right, here we go. So you just go and dump it in the ocean. You got to get it off the boat because it's incredible doses on the boat, let alone close to the boat. They've been dumping it every direction as long as you can think about it. It just, and everything, like when you're dumping this stuff in the ocean, every 33 feet there's 14.5 pounds per square inch or so pressure. Every 33 feet, rather. So time it gets down to 100 feet, there's 3 atmospheres of pressure. These barrels, the majority of them, are going to crack. And they have pressed on tops and bottoms. So when you compress them, the tops and bottoms let go. And the ones that don't sink right away were shot. When you look at just the nuclear production, it destroys the water of everywhere you can imagine, the water tables. And then they glamorize this stuff, alphas, betas, and gammas, as superheroes, right? What you're looking at here was missile silos in Great Falls, Montana. And what they done was they put these missile silos in farmland, of course. These are always hemorrhaging tritium, by the way, 3H. And they're using all these little communities as human shields. So that if their enemy fires at one of these silos, they're not going to say they nuked one of the silos. They're going to say they nuked our community. We're going to let the Ruskies or whoever the current military-industrial complex needs for a boogeyman. So, like, when you abandon your supermarkets, you run away and abandon your communities, clearly it's not like a banana and a potato chip or like Vince Ponka had claimed. You can put it back, the genie back in the bottle. And Buesler, of course, took me to court. Right, him and Jay Cullen. Not to put me in jail, but to get gag orders against me so that they can live out their fantasy life. When I came in off the ocean from year 5 or year 4 research expeditions, they sought to silence me, and they did. With a kangaroo court, right? And gag orders for 3.5 years. The judge was like, what's the longest we can give him? He said to the prosecutor. The prosecutor was like, 3.5 years. They're like, it is so. Have a nice day, Mr. Durnford. So if you have a truck accident in Ontario, this is the plume after about, I'll tell you right now, it's about, right here is 20 days. So if you have a truck accident where you have a nuclear meltdown in any nuclear plant or any nuclear facility or on the highway, this is what the plume looks like. It covers the whole planet in 20 to 30 days. Thank you. Die again. Terrifying NASA video shows America spewing CO2 in the atmosphere. Well, without CO2, you can't have insects or trees or plants or 8 million species or humans or food or anything else. You look like the moon if you don't got any CO2. And CO2 plumes, which is really interesting, the level of detail is tremendous. How about this one? What's the level of detail like in that one? This is a radioactive fallout from Fukushima based on 20 days when the plume stops, or the model stops, rather. Here, let me show you one without the radioactive fallout because it's not as scary looking. So this is a plume, this one in particular is only based on 15 days. This is French government of 10 million atoms. These are, you should abandon your planet numbers per cubic meter of air. That was cesium-137, which pulses energy 600 feet every second. This model is plutonium-239, which killed all the animals in all the research institutes worldwide. Genocide machines, rather, worldwide. These models are based on 20 days of radioactive fallout from Japan. This model is also based on 20 days of radioactive fallout. This was a xenon-133. So you have cesium-137 plume, actual studies. You got a xenon plutonium study. You got a xenon-133 studies. And the list goes on and on and on. Documented radioactive fallout. Documented. And these are catastrophic numbers. And so then they want you to come out and be scared. Now, and nuclear is the only model. This is the only model that they ever created that suggested that a CO2, carbon, could make a plume that kind of covers the planet. Which would be great because there are more insects, more birds, more trees, more bushes, more flowers. But the reality of it is nuclear is the only plume, anthropogenic plume on this planet that covers the entire planet. And the story was just the most gross thing imaginable. Why cars are abandoned in Fukushima, don't worry. They're shipping them all over the world. Many countries banned Fukushima, or Japan's cars, because they're so radioactive. Let's skip past this. Hungary to allow nuclear plants to exceed Danube water temperature limits. So sacrificing the environment for nuclear is normal. You see that everywhere, right? France does it constantly, of course. And much worse than that. Hungary is planning to allow the temperature limits for a section of the Danube which receives cooling water from the Pax nuclear power plant to be exceeded for security of supply reasons. So this is clearly the number one reason you don't want this on your planet. The plant's 4 reactors operate by using the water of the Danube to cool its operation. Currently, according to the regulations, the river cannot receive water if its temperature exceeds 30 degrees Celsius, in which case the operator must cut output and wait for the river to cool below the limit because it kills everything in the river. Why would you put nuclear plants on rivers when you knew absolutely unequivocally this was the outcome? 70% of all of France's fresh water goes to nuclear plants, right? So 86 degrees Fahrenheit, this is man-made temperatures we're talking about. This is not the normal temperatures. So any migratory species coming up that river or dependent upon those rivers is exterminated. Due to climate change. No, climate change is 80 years of nuclear emissions into the environment, the bioaccumulation, because every single atom is pulsing energy almost at the speed of light. It never goes away, and you've been releasing it into the environment for 80 years, and then trying to blame it on carbon as the cover story, right? It may be justified to exceed the limit value of a case-by-case basis if this is unavoidable for security of supply for energy. See, these reactors, when they get They were originally supposed to live 30, 35 years, which is still way too long. These are disease factors, right? And then they give them extensions because they don't have another solution. Now, they've been gathering money up and putting it aside to replace these reactors, but they refuse to shut them off. Because it's all about the fuel cycle. And the more fuel, the more people you're going to destroy with the emissions. Dementia and mortality tied to olive oil consumptions. Well, there's a lot more going on in that picture than you can think of in the context of olive oil. But we know dementia and Alzheimer's and autism and Down syndrome, schizophrenia are joined at the hip with radioactive fallout, radioactive emissions, and radioactive food from farms and stuff like that within 100 miles of these disease factories. So they're claiming that a higher olive oil intake was associated with a lower risk of dementia-related mortality. I got two brothers with dementia and a sister with Alzheimer's. And it doesn't run in our family, right? So I hate the nuclear just a little bit more than the average person, I can assure you. Eating at least 7 grams of olive oil daily, about half a tablespoon, was tied to an adjusted 28% lower risk of dementia-related death. Like there's a little community here last year where there was 5 people in 1 week dropped dead in their 40s or so, right? From massive heart attacks. To our knowledge, this is the first study to examine diet, specifically olive oil, in relationship to dementia death. Gee, I wonder why. They're afraid someone's going to connect nuclear. Oh, this is insane. The hunt for a rare nuclear isotope that could redefine cancer cure. The hunt for a rare nuclear isotope that could redefine cancer cure. Let me explain this one to you. Just bear with me, we're almost there. The hunt for a rare nuclear isotope that could redefine for 120 years. Right from Madame Curie. They've been trying to figure out how they can kill it with nuclear and call it a therapy. There's so many ways to kill it with nuclear. I'm not going to go through everything that I got in this little pile. This is a tiny pile, but it's huge. But it's just a tiny pile of the stuff I got. So radiation therapy, no matter what they try, has never cured you. It's an epidemic. It's a silent epidemic because everybody keeps quiet. But all the hospitals are using radiation. There's only 3% survival rate. Radiation-induced injuries to your eyes, radiation injuries to the heart, radiation injuries, cardiac injuries following breast treatment for breast cancer, radiation-induced kidney diseases, radiation-induced lung injuries, blood spinal cord barrier disruption. So it doesn't cure anything, but it sure causes everything to go kooky. Radiation-induced lung injuries, bowel injuries from radiation. Radiation injuries to the head and neck, radiation-induced brain injuries, radiation-induced brain Radiation-induced lung again, small bowels, radiation injuries. We'll get breast injuries from radiation. The list is so crazy. Gastrointestinal syndrome from radiation. Vitamin C, by the way, uptake may save lives after a radiation accident. Radiation brain necrosis, radiation-induced normal tissue injuries, radiation-induced rectal injuries, radiation spinal cord, heart valves, radiation-induced bowel injuries. You get the picture, right? Rectal injuries. There's so many of them, man. All your glands injuries from radiation. Radiation-induced liver diseases. It's like the whole thing. Okay, so we come back to the original story. So now they got another isotope to cause all these radiation injuries. Do you get it? There's nothing you can cure you as far as they're concerned, only radiation. They're not willing to try anything else. Canada will spend $900,000 on you or your kid. If your kid got radiation, they'll take the kid away from you if you won't let them use radiation. When the kid is dying from all the radiation, they'll send him home to die because they don't want to look at him. Link between smoking and unnatural death through the eyes of the Japan forensic scientists. Smoking and unnatural death. Fukushima. If you ever needed a cover story, that's one place you desperately need it. But the number of cancer patients, according to the Japan's National Cancer Center, said the number of patients rose by 865,000 in 2012. Not everybody's diagnosed. Not everybody got health care. Cancer is not the only illness or disease or autoimmune deficiency or injury or anything else, right? There's many diseases, and cancer is just one of them. But lots of people would have died from the cancer because you're talking about huge doses. So they need stuff to cover that up, right? Like smoking unnatural death through the eyes of a Japan forensic scientist. I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying if you're doing a study like that in Fukushima, what are we supposed to think, right? What else am I supposed to think? That was another video. The censorship on me is really something, isn't it? Harvard. Hang on. That one snuck up on me. That video up there, I play clips of it sometimes, right? We've done the whole video several times back in the day. They tell so many lies, it's unbelievable how many lies they can tell in a single show. Presentation. Stanford done the same thing. So I recently, last month, I downloaded all of these videos again, because you know how they change the formats? And hopefully get better quality than the original, because you're talking 13 years ago, right? So it's pretty shitty. But links to their sites are all gone, of course. Japan's rice inventory hits record low as tourism boom boosts demands. Tourism boom in Japan. That's one of the scariest things you can say. Man. They haven't stopped growing food in the nuclear wasteland. It's crazy. The whole story's crazy. How they got away with it for this long. Now they're so evil, they just feel like they're allowed to murder us. That's That's their job. Their job is to make everybody dead or sick, right? Nobody's allowed to walk without getting sick from this industry. Seniors urged to help Fukushima rice, to eat Fukushima rice to help the farmers and protect the young people. Does that make any sense? This is the Japan Times, the biggest media in Japan. Seniors urged to eat the radioactive rice to help the murderous farmers and to protect the young people from eating the nuclear waste. Consumers have shunned Fukushima rice due to radiation fears. Really? The elderly must eat the radioactive rice. They're calling on seniors to place orders by fax or online via networking sites including Facebook. Facebook genocide. Those interested can order their rice. And there was a senior citizens home that ordered £1,400 right away. We'll do it. Rice grown near a Fukushima plant cleared for sale. Farmer, I wouldn't eat it. Guilty about growing it and selling it. Rice planted 10 miles from Fukushima nuclear meltdowns. They can't stay in town overnight, but they're intended for sale. Help wanted ads seeks employees that can carry out a conversation. That rules out nuclear scientists, doesn't it? Plutonium was detected all over the village, 25 miles from the plant. Professor, something terrible and dreadful is happening. Mayor, please don't tell this to the victims. The Australian catastrophic radiation contamination of rice fields 60 kilometers from the Fukushima Daiichi. No crops for at least 300 years. You forgot to tell the Japanese that, I think, though. Report, Japan's rice allegedly causing diarrhea. Officials told not to send any more donated rice. Locals said the government is playing with public health. They're not playing with it. They're trying to kill you. Shocking. Official made it mandatory to use Fukushima rice in school lunches. It's like Russian roulette. Only 10% of the school lunches in Fukushima were tested for radiation. So, like, when you look at this stuff, I'm not going to read the rest of it, except for a couple, I suppose. Japanese mayor said students are gaining knowledge by eating radioactive food in lunches, school lunches. But the stories are crazy. Don't be a chicken, the mayor tells the parents who are concerned that children are eating radioactive lunches. If this was a Hollywood movie, nobody would watch it twice because they'd be afraid to go to the supermarket ever again. Like if everybody worldwide had to watch one of my videos, nobody would ever visit Japan again. They would be smart too. 6 in 10 Fukushima children tested got diabetes. What's it from, Dana? I don't know. They smile too much, maybe. That's what it was. They smile too much. Right? That's why they got the diabetes. The head of the Tokyo area medical clinic says, we're expecting diabetes in children from Fukushima radiation, Dana. I was just trying to be funny. 6 in 10 Fukushima children tested have diabetes. Whenever I go to a doctor and I talk about Fukushima, this is one of the first headlines I'll talk about. Then I'll tell them how 14,200 children, 14.2% of every 100,000 children need open heart surgery across the whole country. Because, it's like a banana, right? 70% of the children tested in Kanto, which is Tokyo basically, metropolitan Tokyo with 36 million people, have radioactive cesium in their urine. Should check for plutonium too. Radioactivity of 14,000 atoms per square meter in the rice paddies. Crops to be sold in Japan. It's worse than that. They picked up 30 million one-ton bags. They're now cutting the bags open and growing food in it because no one paying attention. Previous limits in Japan was 0.1 atom a kilogram. Now it's whatever they say. Rice leaf concentrates radioactivity is 600 times greater than water. Dangerous high levels of radiation detected in rice from date. Dangerous is you get sick and die from when you eat it. It's not like dangerous you need a Band-Aid. You don't get Band-Aids for radiation. Did you know that? Like the ludicrousness. I'll just stop on this headline here. Every organism in Fukushima Prefecture is contaminated with radiation. The worms are excreting 1.4 million atoms a kilogram detected in worm feces 60 kilometers from the meltdown. It's hard to appreciate the madness of this story on your own. When you come here and you start getting a little sample of this stuff, and you start realizing life is very, 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 very precious, very, very, very fragile, and that the world needs to grow up and stand up. It's time to grow and stand up. Like this is not a game, okay? The numbers we're talking about, 1 million atoms xenon-133 on the ground, 20 million particles of iodine-131 per liter rainfall. Does rain fall by the liter? 220 million atoms, 220 million pulses of energy every second from a liter. So each liter is containing all of this, see? The numbers we're talking about is absurd. And the world, this is why they censor the daylights of the meat. Because they're ashamed of who they are. And if their family finds out what they're up to, they'll have to murder them, right? Because that's what these people are like. They're serial killers. And if the family finds out that they're serial killers, they'll kill the family, and then they'll take off and change their name, get married in a different country, right? And raise another family. And if they get discovered, they'll kill them, and then they'll disappear, right? Because that's the cowardly thing to do. Then we know this is what they do. Stupid idiot, personified moron. Japan, government promotes the idea that you're racist if you avoid Fukushima nuclear food. And that nuclear activists are to be constantly spied upon. Yeah, gee, I wonder if they're spying on me tonight. 24 viewers, 21 likes. Last night's show got less than 130 views. We've only been doing it for a decade, I guess, 5 shows a week. You wouldn't expect to get too many views, would you? I'm grateful for everybody that managed to find me. I know there's more than 130 watch my video, but I'm grateful to everybody that's smart enough to get educated. It gives me hope that people are out there trying. Is Japan trying to kill millions of people worldwide each year by growing food in a nuclear wasteland? Yeah, Dana, of course they are. I screwed it up today. I'm burnt out, so we'll see everybody hopefully tomorrow night. I got a shitstorm coming tomorrow. Oh my goodness, here. It's going to be brutal. Ugh. Hi everybody. Hugs for everybody. Have a great night, everyone. I hope everybody had a great day. I'm pretty sure everybody had a better day than I did. Busted up pretty good. Couldn't seem to stop hurting myself today for some reason. And James put a bunch of songs up on his site over the last few days. He's got no views. It's James Lucy. You know, it's James. These are anti-nuclear songs. He's got so many genres. You can't go wrong. Show the guy some love and get over there and give him some thumbs up and listen to some of that music. This is incredible stuff, right? And he's the only person I know on the entire planet that is doing that. Music is one of the best ways. You should download a whole bunch of it and give it to your teenage nephews or kids and daughters and everything, because they love stuff like that, and then hopefully they start sharing it, right? And we're going to play one of James's songs actually as an outro. I apologize to everybody who haven't got the regular show tonight. I'm just too busted up, too burnt out. I got to get some polysporin on all my gouges and slashes and cuts, and hopefully tomorrow morning I can get back at it again. It's undignified, to have to do everything myself. But we got to keep this operation moving. It's very difficult to do the things I'm doing as it is. And so we'll see everybody tomorrow night. You have a great day today, hopefully, and a great day tomorrow. Let me get rid of this before I move, because if not, I'm going to screw this up later. Hang on here. Alrighty, we'll see everybody on the next show. Have a great night, everybody.
In the Tokyo Bureau,
this is a song by James Lucy. Go over to his site.
Chicago division fueled by heated dreams. Calm down, Charlie calls in, voice smooth as silk. Says, Dana, you're dreaming, don't cry over spilt milk. On Dana Durnford show, the chatter's turning wild, but Charlie shoots it down with that cool cat style. Unit 3's no killer, no harm to see life. He chuckles in the static, cuts through the strife. Oh, calm down, Charlie, with his nuclear charm. He says starfish are just fine, there's no alarm. His words dance on airwaves with a confident glow. Calm down, Charlie steals the whole radio show. With a snap and a grin, Charlie's voice so clear scatters the dread, dispels all the fear. Mux didn't hurt, he croons with a sigh. Science is for thinkers, not a whim or lie. Though Dana and the crowd may shout and roar, Charlie's unfazed, he's heard it all before. His swinging rationale, like a soothing song, says, hold on to logic, we gotta stay strong. Oh, calm down, Charlie, with his nuclear charm. He says starfish are just fine, there's no alarm. His words dance on airwaves with a confident glow. Calm down, Charlie steals the whole radio show.